Hello, everybody. Today we're starting a new series looking at the parables of Jesus. And this vlog is entitled, Why Parables? Why Parables? And our text is Matthew 13, verses 10 to 17. Our Sunday school definition of parables, of course, was an earthly story with a heavenly meaning. And I don't think anyone has bettered that definition over the years. So we're asking that question at the start of this series, why parables? Why did Jesus choose to teach using parables or stories? And the disciples asked that very question, and we'll get on to Jesus' answer in just a minute. But first, let's just reflect on why Jesus taught in the first place. What was he trying to communicate? So what was his purpose in teaching? I think that's just a helpful place to start before we get on to the parables. So at the heart of Jesus' teaching was that salvation is much more to do with relationship with God than obeying a set of rules. More to do with what's going on in your heart than what's seen outwardly. And that relationship with God is possible only through faith in Jesus Christ, who is one with God. He is the door into the kingdom of God. And Jesus very often said, look, the kingdom of God is at hand. It's closer than we think. Hence the many times we hear Jesus say, follow me, because I am the way, the truth, and the life. So that's the heart of Jesus' teaching. This is what he wanted to communicate to people. And those things, of course, brought him into conflict, direct conflict with some of those around. For instance, the elitist, established religious order of the day, who were all about rule abeyance and the centrality of the temple and so on. The outward holiness rather than the inward holiness. Of course, they were corrupt on the inside, in their heart. They rejected Jesus, accused him of blasphemy and plotted to kill him, to get rid of him. Their hearts were hardened. They couldn't see his true qualities. Though he healed people miraculously, all they could see is, you've done it on a Sunday, or done it on the Sabbath, done it on the wrong day. They couldn't see that the fact that he'd actually healed them. Their hearts were hardened. But the humble common folk who were aware of their own shortcomings and their need of him, well, they accepted him. They recognized him for who he was, the genuine article, full of grace and truth. They saw his love and his divinity and were drawn to him. They were open to his teaching and wanted to be close to him. And that's crucial to understand, that there are these two audiences, those who with hardened hearts and those with open, accepting hearts, fertile, if you like, to use the word of a parable that we'll be looking into very soon. So we move on to Jesus' use of the parables. Why speak in these parables or stories? Well, if you were to look up that question in a regular, say, religious studies textbook, you might get answers such as, well, they were simple, easy to understand stories for the simple folk of the day, a common teaching tool of the day. They challenged people, but in a subtle, clever way, weaving a story and then hitting people with a punchline at the end. They connected with everyday folk, didn't they? Using analogies from every day, using the lives of shepherds and widows and so on. Therefore, they were good communication devices, and we use them today, don't we? Stories are powerful. And all of that can be true, of course. But when the disciples asked Jesus, why do you use parables? That's not what he said. Even though it might be true, of course, but that's not his primary mode or reason for using them. And in Matthew 13, Jesus had just told the parable of the sower, which is really pertinent to what he says here. But the meaning of the parable wasn't immediately obvious to his disciples. So the disciples ask, why not just speak plainly? Why tell us a story? And Jesus replied, to test your hearing. Well, not exactly in so many words, but really, that's what he was saying. Remember that punchline at the end of so many of his stories? He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Or in the Message, are you listening to this? Really listening? So let's read his reply, and I'm going to read it in the Message, because very often that acts as a kind of commentary, especially with difficult to understand passages such as this one. So Matthew 13, reading from verse 10. The disciples came up and asked, "Why do you tell stories?" He replied, "You've been given insight into God's kingdom. You know how it works. Not everybody has this gift. This insight hasn't been given to them. Whenever someone has a ready heart for this, the insights and understandings flow freely. But if there's no readiness, no trace of receptivity, like the Pharisees, it soon disappears." That's why I tell stories, to create readiness, to nudge the people towards a welcome awakening. In their present state, they can stare till doomsday and still not see it. Listen until they're blue in the face and not get it. I don't want Isaiah's forecast repeated all over again. Your ears are open, but you don't hear a thing. Your eyes are awake, but you don't see a thing. The people are stupid. They stick their fingers in their ears so they won't have to listen. They screw up their eyes shut so they won't have to look, so they won't have to deal with me face to face and let me heal them. But you have God-blessed eyes, eyes that see, God-blessed ears, ears that hear. A lot of people, prophets and humble believers among them, would have given anything to see what you're seeing and hear what you're hearing, but never had the chance. What his answer shows is that parables act as a kind of a test to search you, to see what kind of a heart you have. Listen to the parable of the sower, also to see what kind of a heart you have. If you don't get it at first, you harden your heart and stop listening, stop learning, and just say, "Oh, I don't get this. This is stupid," and walk away? Or do you say, "I want to learn more. I want to know Jesus. Show me, Lord. Show me the answers. Open my eyes." Jesus taught that how we respond to him as a person, and his teaching is the deciding factor in our relationship with God and our ultimate destiny, eternal destiny. So the parables are a bit like the seeds in the parable of the sower, who we'll learn about very soon in the next vlog. How will you respond? How will you respond when you hear the teaching of Jesus, when you hear the parables? When you hear the words of Jesus telling you a story, if you want to know about the different ways that people react and you want to understand your own heart, listen to the next vlog on the parable of the sower. Are you listening? Are you really listening? Ask your questions. Wait for the answers to come. Make your heart fertile, not hard. That's why Jesus told parables, to test your hearing. Anyway, thanks for listening. God bless. Bye for now.